And now a message from our friends at Fetching Food.
The 1970s and 80s had elbow, gravy train, Purina, Meow Mix, and bell bottoms. You've changed your clothes, now change how you feed your pet. Like bell bottoms, kick the kibble and join us in the 21st century with the healthiest diet for dogs and cats. Feed naturally, feed raw, feed Fetching Foods.
Dashing through the snow on a one-horse open sleigh. Over the fields we go, laughing all the way. Ha ha ha! Bells on bobs, tails, wings, making a spirit bright. What fun it is to laugh and sing and sledding songs tonight. Oh, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun is to ride in one-horse open sleigh. Oh, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun is to ride in one-horse open sleigh. Jingle bells, Batman smells, Robin laid an egg. The Batmobile lost his wheels and the Joker got away. Hey, we hope you all have a Merry Christmas. Ho, ho, ho.
Santa here? I know him.
Hello, pups and kittens, and welcome to another fun-filled and holiday edition of the Groomer Next Door podcast. I'm your host, Chris Green, and joining us this week from Dog is Good, Gila, Kurtz. Really nice woman, great company. I honestly did not know that they did so much, and that is what made it so much fun for me to actually be able to talk to her. One of the fun facts that you will hear is that they've been doing this for 10 years. They have developed an all-new system that I have not seen anybody doing in this industry. And for all of you looking for that one special gift or multiple special gifts for your family, your friends, your boss, whatever it is, good idea. Stop by Dog is Good. They have a lot of options. Well, by that sound, Gila is about to enter the podcast studio. So with that said, welcome Gila Kurtz to the podcast.
Oh, hello. Hold on a sec. Dad, we have a guest on the podcast.
All right, this week on the podcast, we're going to discuss Christmas gifts. And who better than Gila Kurtz, who her and her husband have started a really unique company, and we're going to hear all about it, called Dog is Good. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much, Chris. It's my pleasure to be here.
It is an absolute pleasure, and I'm just such a fan of what you guys do, and it's funny because my wife and we have our business together, so right there alone, I'm like, oh my God, something in common. How much fun that's going to be. So let's go into my favorite topic, which is the origin story. How did Dog is Good, or DIG, come out?
Okay, excellent. So Dog is Good, which has been around now for 10 years. I'm so proud of that. We started basically because I was crazy for dogs. I was a professional dog trainer and currently still am doing professional dog training. But I was attending a conference, a continuing education conference, in which they had an exhibitor hall, and one of the vendors there was selling some T-shirts. And I remember standing in front of that booth for a good time, looking at these items. They were mostly generic white T-shirts with different dog breeds on them, and they all said, I love my, and whatever your dog breed was. And I remember standing there thinking, oh my gosh, I so love my Dalmatian, but I would not wear this shirt. There is something more about the relationship I have with her that is beyond just I love my Dalmatian. And I just mentioned it casually to John, and he said, well, why don't you create something? And we paused for a moment and thought, hey, why don't we? And so we came up with Dog is Good, and tested the waters with some ideas and some concepts, some messaging that we felt resonated with at least us, and then took it to the public, and little by little began to see very quickly how the messaging really started to touch people and how they reacted to it. And that's really how we've chosen to build the brand. It's that we know so well, as all dog lovers do, that a dog can change the way you see the world, and that more than ever, our relationship that we have with our pets plays such an important part of our lives on a daily basis. And that's the focus that we take when we are creating products, when we're creating messaging, is how can we remind people how great they feel in the presence of their own dogs, but more importantly, just how impacted their lives are as a result of, impactful their lives are as a result of the dogs that share it with them.
Couldn't agree with you more. I will say this, your response, or actually your husband's response, is a lot different than when I told my wife, hey, I'm going to start a podcast. So, I'm wondering if you flip it a little bit, if he would have said it, would it have been a different reaction? Because it was definitely a different reaction on my end, like, who would ever listen? And I would just always wonder, if I would have told my wife, hey, let's start a clothing line, she'd be like, who's going to buy it? So I found that to be very interesting, and I'm like, oh, well, that's cool. It was right there. You guys are supportive of it, and that's a really cool way of starting.
Well, and when you're working with your spouse, there's you have, I think, and people will ask me actually, how is it that you can work with your husband? I mean, I could never even consider working with my husband or wife or whatever the case may be. But I think what it boils down to is we both have a tremendous amount of respect for the other person and for the talents and skill set that they bring to the business. So there are plenty of times in the course of the past 10 years where I have ideas and get excited about things that I want to bring to market. And he has that logical mindset and really thinks through what the unintended consequences are. That's just, what he always says to me. Let's think about the unintended consequences of this decision. And but what he has learned to do, and this is something I guess, quote unquote, and my little air quotes going as I say this, trained him to do is, look, celebrate my excitement about something first, and then I feel heard, and then tell me about about the things that we must consider before jumping right into it, which is appropriate. And I think that's where we balance each other out. So I can appreciate working with a spouse for sure.
It's really not difficult. And from what I'm gathering, it's not difficult for you two as well. And I get the same question, how do you work with your wife? Or she'll hear, how do you work with your husband every day? And honestly, maybe it's the fact, and maybe it's the same with you, I just don't play well with others. So I do well with her. In another environment, not so much. I don't know why. But I do really well working with my wife, and there's no friction, there's no issue. I, of course, look at her and say, okay, it's your shop, we'll do it your way. And I'm pretty sure he's almost in the same way where he's like, okay, this is your idea, we'll go and do it your way. And you have probably more creative control on the products. Now, quote me if I'm wrong. But I would think that you have more creative control on what goes out.
Well, I think we actually have a solid team effort. Neither one of us makes any decision that has a strong impact on the company without running it by the other person. Again, I think that goes back to the level of respect, knowing that you have a partner, and hearing each other out as far as ideas and things like that go. There are moments where John may not believe in something that I feel very strongly about, and we agree, let's trust my instinct on this, and if it doesn't fly, then that's on me. And if it does, let's both celebrate. And vice versa, that if he really feels strongly about something too, we'll go ahead and listen as well. Because I think one of the important things, I know we're now talking about business, but I think it's important to know in anything, whether it's business, a job, or a relationship, you sometimes have to, people are very quick to make decisions based on immediate information. And we try to put ourselves in a habit of gathering all the data and understanding the full story before responding. So we're pretty good about responding versus reacting to things.
And see, that's the whole thing. It's a 50-50 bond, and nobody's 100% right. There's always that room for discussion and ideas. And I get that. I completely get that. And that's where I'm like, oh, this is another reason why it was so interesting to talk to you, because being in the spot that I'm in, it's very similar where there's the two of us and we have to come up with response, and instead of going on reaction, you have to think about everything. And so it's kind of cool to hear somebody else who's in the same spot and they're doing that and successful at it as well, which, that's again, I think everybody always wonders, how do you do it? But it's not that difficult. I guess communication is the key, right?
Absolutely. The key in everything, you're communicating with your customers. Communication is key in personal relationships, in vendor relationships. It's just key. To be human, you must be able to communicate.
Now, do you remember the very first product you came up with?
Oh yeah, I sure do. It's not around anymore, but it just was the very first product we really, actually this one is around. It's just Dog is Good. We created a hat, and that's all that was embroidered on it. And really, it was that product, that one hat, that launched the company. We had the idea, we trademarked everything, and we were preparing to launch the business, but we were also living in the state of Washington, where John was stationed at one of the naval bases up there. And then we got relocated here to California. So we didn't take action right away. We had the idea, we trademarked it, and in order to trademark it, you had to show that you had something in common. So we embroidered some hats. And once we were here in California, I was training a client's dog with her, and I walked into the house, and she about flipped out. I am not kidding you. When she saw my hat, I was wearing a Dog is Good hat. And her reaction to it was so, it's such energy and enthusiasm. Like, I gotta have that. Where did you get that? And I thought, oh my gosh, really? Like, it was this validating moment that led us to go, let's go full force right now. And we literally took action within a couple weeks after that experience. But that was the first product. As far as one of the first messages that we came up with, was, it's all fun and games until someone ends up in a cone. And that was, and still is, one of our very best-selling humor items that we do have in the line. And there was Your Dog Doesn't Know Sit and Official Dog Walker. So there, a lot of the ones early on, they were kind of basic. And where we evolved is where we began to see how people responded and reacted to poignant messaging or lifestyle messaging that really spoke to who they are as a person and as a dog lover, and the relationship that they have with their dogs. And that's where we found our messaging really hit home, and we started to create more and more of those kinds of items.
And it's funny, because I lived in Southern California my entire life up until the last 8 years, and I could swear I saw some of your products out there. Because when you mentioned it's all fun and games until you end up in a cone, I swear I remember seeing that somewhere. And it's like, as you're telling me this, I'm going, okay, I don't remember where I saw this, but I remember seeing this, and it's vivid in my head, because I thought that is the funniest thing I've ever seen. And
well, thank you.
You've hit it on the head, where you'll see a silhouette of a dog, and it'll just have my favorite breed is and it's so generic, and it doesn't say I love my dog as having a real message on there. And that's another thing that really has caught my attention, is being Southern California as long as I was, you start to see things that almost resonate, and you remember them. And there's so much that goes on while living there, as you know. But your product line, I don't remember how I saw it. I don't remember if it was a show that I was at or something. But, it was one of those, it caught my attention even then, and thinking 10 years already. Wow. It had to be in that time frame. Now, you have an extensive product line, which I have to say, it's impressive.
Well, thank you.
And that was another reason why doing this during the holidays, it was really a perfect time to sit down and have this conversation. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, as I'm looking up everything, I'm thinking, all right, there's going to be, obviously products, but I was really surprised when I dove in and started looking at it. You guys have developed a line that can cross into so many different interests, and that alone speaks volume. And
Well,
we start with your holiday line. Your holiday line is perfect for everybody who's looking for stocking stuffers, looking for ideas. And then you go down the apparel line, which you've covered every base possible, whether it's a T-shirt, a sweatshirt, you've got hats. The one that really caught me was scrubs. I was like, really? That really caught me. Sleepwear, which I love, obviously. So let's, kind of dissect each one of the lines that you have. And, we'll start with your holiday line, and you kind of can give everybody a little, incentive of what you're doing and kind of, tease them on things that they might be looking for.
Well, thank you for that. We do have a pretty extensive line now, and I'm really excited about how it's expanded, because what we learned was the product itself, quite honestly, is irrelevant. It's the message.
Yeah.
It's what people are drawn to, because again, it just, having that speaks to who they are as a person. It's the reason why someone might wear a USC sweatshirt and somebody else wears a UCLA sweatshirt. I'm speaking Southern California here. It's a part of who they are, and they want to share that with the rest of the world. We're as a community, as a society now, such a social media driven race at this point, if that is such a thing. But we're just so driven by social media and sharing our life and how we live it. And all of our products are really just social expressions of who we are as a person and how we feel about our lives with our dogs. So the product categories have definitely expanded. You mentioned the scrubs, and interestingly, it is one of the very top selling products that we have when we're selling direct to consumer. We don't sell a lot of those into our retail stores that we sell into around the country, but for the consumer, they purchase so many of those, very popular, and we continue to put more and more designs on scrubs, because vet techs, anybody in the health industry, whether it's animal related, human related, if they wear scrubs and they can wear scrubs that aren't generic, they buy it and they love it. Some of the other product categories, you mentioned the apparel. That's a big portion of our line currently. Of course, we have a number of T-shirts, and with the T-shirt line, we've learned that the two styles that really people demand are things that are for in a unisex, so that any man or woman can wear it, or a truly more feminine cut in a women's type shirt. And we use super soft fabrics, fabulous fits, pre-shrunk. People really just love the line and how it feels on them when they wear it. And we can accommodate all sizes, from small on up to 2XLs and 3XLs in those scenarios. Sleepwear is also one of our top selling categories as well, and we'll be continuing to add products into that category as 2019 rolls around too. And then of course you have your standard hoodies and long sleeve type shirts as the weather gets cooler. So there's a tremendous amount of things that one can seek out. Holiday is one of my favorites, and this year we have really outdone ourselves, I think, in terms of the design and messaging. So we're offering currently 4 pieces of apparel, but 3 designs. One of them is a T-shirt and a hoodie. And they're so cute. Like when they came in on the pallet, when we received them a couple weeks ago, everybody was flipping out. And our staff likes our stuff, but when they start really flipping out, we hit it. And our fan base seems to really like it too. But, fun things like naughty is the new nice and celebrate the little things, which is a little bit sweeter. And those messages are available on so many things. The apparel, little stocking stuffers like decorative magnets or beautiful ceramic coasters, coffee mugs, things like that. So people can really put together a whole set of items as a gift theme for their recipient that they like to give it to. And then throughout the line too, there's the categories of accessories like the hats and the tote bags, which are hugely popular. We have a very, very high quality tote. Most people don't realize in looking at the website until they get it, they're blown away. It is such high quality, and we're really proud of those. And then we also license the brand to about 30 different manufacturers currently. So they used our designs on their products, which we also sell to retail, our consumers. And gosh, there's everything from puppy pee pads to, we don't sell these on our website yet. They're sold on another website, but shower curtains and every kind of gift item and home decor products you can imagine that truly just shares how great people feel when they're with their dogs and just speaks to who they are as a person.
I did not know about that. That's why when you said it wasn't on the website, I'm like, wait, I didn't see anything on shower curtains, and I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Now, out of curiosity, does it have the dog on it, or does it have, for the logo, or how does that look?
Right. So these companies, when they sign a contract to license our designs, they're taking any or all of the designs and applying them to their product category. So in the example of the shower curtain, they just took a whole bunch of the different designs and made it appropriate for that particular medium. Like, what would that look like hanging in someone's bathroom, and how would they reconfigure what the design looks like in order to make that work? There's a rug company that does, there's a few that do doormats. And so, again, taking the core art, but modifying it just enough so that it makes sense for that particular product category. Different tote bags, socks, all sorts of smaller gift and home decor kinds of products. So next year we'll have Christmas ornaments. Trying to think of some of the newer ones that just went on. We're working on a really big one that's in negotiation with a major national brand that I cannot share who that is right now, but when it gets finalized, it is going to blow people's mind. I'm so excited about it. So that will open up a whole new product category. It'll be a lot of fun. And I think people will really enjoy it.
That is so interesting. I mean, honestly, I've done so many episodes, and I don't actually remember anybody who has licensed out their products like this. And I find that to be very unique and really creative way of having the best of all worlds. So I think that alone, it's just so cool to know that. I mean, I again have never heard anybody doing that so far. So that's cool. Well, I would love to, one of the things I guess I would like to know on that is, how did that discussion come up, and how did you guys come to the conclusion that, yeah, you know what, we're going to do this?
So many years ago, a gentleman called us. He was a licensing agent. He happened to have been on vacation and saw our brand in a small boutique and immediately knew that this was a brand that he could take into the licensing world. And when he approached us, we thought, oh, that would be great. Quite honestly, it was not something that we sat down and said at the very beginning, oh, let's create stuff that we can hopefully license. But as the gentleman got familiar with our brand, we're very good friends today. Of course, he's still with us. He started to introduce our designs and our logo to different companies, and people wanted to actually use them for their products. So he was the one that kind of made the introduction into that world. And, we just look at it as, from a business standpoint, what are the different revenue streams that we can create in our business model? And that was a real obvious one. It really supports the entire ecosystem of our business, which is built on currently 3 pillars of wholesale. We wholesale our products to thousands of retailers all over the country, and we license the brand as we're talking about now. And then we have our own online e-commerce. And so each one feeds into the system of the other, because when we have all these licensees, their products are getting put into retail distribution in areas where we could not possibly go with our core line. An example would be, we're just now going to be in automotive stores. Mm-hmm. So, our licensee that does car air fresheners and car window decals and car magnets, we all work together to make that happen. So then people who are shopping in those stores, they see the brand, they go, oh, that's so cool, I want something like that. They go online and check it out. That fuels the other. So they all kind of go together. And interestingly, we've created an opportunity too. I thought I'd share this with you. We just launched this past year, and it has been the most fun thing that we have done since I think that we have started the business, and that is helping other dog lovers who have an entrepreneurial spirit build their own business using our brand. So in 2018, this year, we launched the Dog is Good pop-up shop opportunity, and currently have about 50 people around the country who are actively sharing the brand as it's a pop-up store that they set up in a number of places. And it has been so fun helping them realize their dreams with the brand at this point. And I feel very blessed to play a small role in some of the life-changing shifts that are going on for some of these people.
It's funny. I was going to ask you about the pop-up shops because I thought, it is more of a West Coast and an East Coast type of thing that you're seeing a lot more now than ever before. And I was like, now that's a smart move. So I was going to ask you about it, and you definitely, knew where I was going to go, and I thought that was really cool. And then you mentioned automotive, which again, that was such a really unique line to have to have the trailer hitch, the magnets, and the fresheners, and so on and so on. And it's one of those questions of how did that idea come about, and because it's so out of the box, and that's one of the things that has drawn me to you guys.
Well, thank you. It's really, some of these things come about because other people seek it out from us. So with the car magnets, we knew we wanted to make car magnets, and our car magnet manufacturer, who is owned by a couple also. They do a very large business out of North Carolina, so they're made in the U.S. But they loved it so much, and then they said, you know what? We sell so many magnets into all these other areas. Can we license these designs from you? And then you can also, we'll manufacture them from you too. And so that kind of started the automotive component. And then a company that makes car air fresheners and the window decals approached us and said, oh, I love these. Can we license your brand to take into, they're in all these grocery stores and, places that we would never go as a company with the core product line that we have. And so that's kind of evolved. I believe we just signed a licensing agreement with a company that does the car seat covers. So pretty soon we'll have that. And what that does is, again, you're highlighting the fact that it opens up these channels, because now there'll be a manufacturer that maybe does, the window shield thingies that can protect your dash from heat or sun. And, those, when you start to show all these different product categories in development, then others come on board because they want to participate too. They see it's proof of concept, like, oh, well, this works. And then what it does for us is it enables us to also help all those licensees work as a team to get into some of these larger key account retailers, because then we can tell a whole story. Like, here's your Dog is Good section, and here's your car fresheners and your car magnets and your the window thing and the trailer hitch cover and the car coasters that go into little coaster things and the window decals and the car magnets. It all and the seat covers. It can all go as a section. So a buyer, it makes sense for them to bring it in.
And, one thing that a lot of companies have unfortunately put themselves into is that there's nowhere to go except for the either apparel or maybe leashes. There's not much wiggle room. They've never created more for themselves. You have created something that's not only for her, for him, but for all. And that's the part that, a lot of people, I've talked to them, and it's like, you got to think what's next. And well, we're kind of unable to, because we've kind of developed our brand that we're just a clothing line, and you did not allow that to be part of the discussion. That's the part that it's unique, and it's like, okay, we can pretty much cater to anybody. If you're looking for a birthday gift, a Christmas gift, a Hanukkah gift, whatever the gift is you're looking for, whether it's for a male or female, we've got that. And that's what's so cool about it. And it doesn't have to be a full gift. It could be a stocking stuffer. It can be something small. And it fits the whole line. And then you almost become one of these, I'm only going to stay with one brand, because I have the mug of Dog is Good. I have a shirt. I have a hat. Now you become this actual mogul of its own. And that's unique and completely outside the box. And that's what's, as you continue to tell, and, as you can tell, I went through your website pretty well, and it was just, it was almost never ending. And that's so unique.
Thank you. You brought up a really good point, and I will share publicly that we know that, particularly in the pet space, with the exception of dog food, people can't name a brand.
Right.
They might say something like Kong. That would probably be probably the only brand that I ever hear when I ask people to tell me a brand that they know and really identify with. Or they naming a dog food, and dog food aside, there is no brand for the dog lover. And Dog is Good believes very strongly that we will be to dog lovers what Harley Davidson is to motorcycle enthusiasts, that it will be the brand that people think of because it is all encompassing and because it speaks so strongly to who they are as a person. It's what differentiates us from any other apparel company out there. And there's some great ones. I don't want to discount anybody else who produces apparel, because there really are some good ones.
Yeah,
I'm friends with them, but the differentiating factor is, while people find a message funny or humorous or kitschy, wordplay kind of stuff, which is great. At the end of the day, it doesn't say, "Hey, this is me, and this is me in my life with my dog," and that's what that's why people become so rabid, for lack of a better pun, about the brand when they encounter it.
And it's one of those, I guess, probably when you were starting out and you started to expand, you probably had that fear of, is there really a need for this or a want? I'm sure that had to come up in discussion, and yet, as you can tell, it's not only a need or want, it's been a begging desire, and that's the unique part of it. And I don't think a lot of people were willing to take that risk. And yes, you're right, there are a lot of companies out there who do great apparel, and there's no down on what they're doing. I think you guys took a risk that you weren't sure how it would go, and that's of course how a risk goes, but it paid off. And it paid off in a very large way.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
And
John and I are both serious action takers. We have big visions. We're incredibly disciplined, and I think that's part of the key. And then the main key is neither one of us quit on the same day.
You know what? I get that. I really do get that one. Now, we've talked about apparel. We've talked about accessories. We've even talked about automotive, which I don't even know if I've ever had that discussion on the podcast yet. But now you've talked about licensing your product line, but you also have an items for the home, which again, I don't see this too often. If it's one product line for one company, that's one thing, but not somebody who's universal, who's doing everything. So let's talk about items for the home.
Sure. We have, the doormats, which I love, and picture frames, wall hanging hooks. That's my favorite, with the Never Walk Alone. So you just hang it by your door where you can hang your leashes.
Mm-hmm.
And glassware, which is absolutely, I love our glassware. Wine glasses, things like that, with the designs etched into them. They make such great gift items, and people can go to the website right now for holiday and join that. Actually, they should, if people are thinking about holiday gift buying, which I want to encourage and invite all of you to come check out the website, as Chris has done, but sign up for the newsletter, because you're going to get a 15% discount on your first order, and you're going to get access to, specials and promotions and things that others just don't get access to. So it's important to do that. And let's see what else. We have canvas wall art that's going to be available again soon. The shower curtains, we don't sell those on our website. That's a company that makes them, and they do it through their distribution. I forget the name of the company, but a company that does pillows and bedding, things like that. They'll be selling they're producing those items right now. I'm hoping they'll be ready by holiday, because I sure would love to sell some of the pillowcases and stuff. But those are, primarily the core things. We also have a book, my book, best-selling book called Fur Covered Wisdom: A Dog Can Change the Way You See the World, which makes a nice little gift at the holiday season as well. And actually, with that, one of the things I want to mention to people, while we are obviously a very product-centric business, that's not what we're in the business about. We are in the business about improving lives and really celebrating the relationship, the dog-human relationship, and the positive benefits that each have on the other. And so the community itself is a tremendous community to be a part of. And I invite people to join the Dog is Good Lifestyle group, because they're getting access not only to dog lovers around the world, but we do lots of fun stuff in there, such as we have a weekly lifestyle show where we interview people in topics of interest for dog lovers, and that's really fun. And then we also have periodic Facebook Live events, which are a total blast. We have one coming up in November. It's going to be November 16th. And you got to RSVP to the party, but it's a big party, and people love it. It's all interactive, and we have a lot of fun here at Dog is Good putting that together for people, which is perfect for holiday shopping, too, because we do some serious special deals in that show only. You can only get them on that show. And then through the Fur Covered Wisdom program, we have people can receive a weekly dose of inspiration from their very own dogs. And every Monday, they get a little note in their inbox that says, a note from, let's say their dog's name is Bella. So a note from Bella. And in their inbox comes a note that's written in the dog's voice. And it's some form of inspiration to inspire them throughout the week. And people love that. So people can access that by the homepage as well, going to the Fur Covered Wisdom block and just registering their name and their dog's name in order to get that every Monday in their inbox. And by request, we also have an online book club around the book, Fur Covered Wisdom. So for people who are interested in taking a journey of self-discovery through the eyes of their own dog, that's something that we do. It's a private group. It is by people have to apply to be part of it, and we meet privately every week online. I help to facilitate that, and it's a lot of fun.
And Dog is Good also gives back.
Yes. Oh, that is something else I'm so proud of and passionate about. I love, love, love our beneficiary. Dog is Good for Patriots is our corporate giving arm. And we created that because John is a Navy veteran, and we have very strong ties to the military and, believe in supporting that community so wholeheartedly Camis and Canines is the most phenomenal organization. They are based out of San Diego, and really the heart of it is Kalani Kreuzberg, who's the founder, and his story is so moving, and to know him truly is one of the greatest gifts in my life, quite honestly. He has just inspired me in so many different ways. But the Camis and Canines organization based out of San Diego has a large property, which they just secured just outside of the San Diego proper. And they are providing housing for homeless veterans while at the same time helping them train shelter dogs to be service animals for other veterans. And it is just, I can't even begin to tell you how amazing it is. I would encourage people to check them out. So it's Camis and Canines in San Diego, and our whole Patriot line goes to support them. And then what we seek to do throughout the year is identify other organizations, usually in the animal welfare community, to sponsor, whether it's for a month or with a particular product line, et cetera. But we really feel it's our duty and obligation, which we do with pride, to give back.
That is just amazing. And that's why, it's you created your own label. You became a mogul of its own, but it's not just about that. It's about what can you do for others. And, down to a message by your dog that, I imagine so many people take that in such a high regard of, I really needed that. It probably makes people's lives just that much better for something so simple. So that's amazing.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Now, you had mentioned your book. How did that come about? How did you think, it's time to do that?
That was at a very pivotal point in my life, in our business growth. We were experiencing significant year-over-year growth, and there was just a point where I was trying to evaluate how I wanted to move my life forward, and took that moment to really look at my Labrador, I was training to be a guide dog actually at the time. Really turned to her for guidance, quite honestly. I just surrendered myself to learning from her, and in hopes that I could find a little bit more joy on a day-to-day basis, and bring joy back into my life so that it wasn't always just about work and growing a company. Because it's easy to get caught up in that, especially when you're a type A personality. And over the past few years, I have really had a personal mission of maintaining a path on a journey of self-discovery, and being very purposeful in my thoughts and my actions and my contributions in the world around me. And a lot of it I truly do take from the lessons that I committed to learning or seeking out from her. And then anecdotally, obviously, they're anecdotal lessons, but I really took to heart what those were. And so I decided to, when I mentioned it to somebody, they said, "Oh, you should write a book about that," which I kind of poo-pooed, like, "Oh, who would want to read that? That's so silly." And then I thought about it. I thought, you know what? If nothing else, it'll be cathartic for me. Mm-hmm. And so I sat down to write it, and which it most definitely was. And I'm so grateful that I did, because I had no idea how it would touch the lives of other people, and lead on to create this fur-covered wisdom chapter that we're bringing into the Dog is Good brand, moving forward, to make available to others, because they're transforming their lives as well through this guidance. And I love that.
Any idea of making another one, writing another one?
Yes. In 2019, there will be another one. I already have actually, there'll probably be, I can't do two in 1 year, but I have thoughts of a couple ideas for the next one. We're trying to decide which one it's going to be, but for sure, there's definitely going to be another one.
I found that, and that's kind of the fun part, is I've talked to a lot of people who have written books who just say it's therapeutic, number one, but it becomes addicting. You want to do another one. And you almost kind of sit back going, okay, today's the day I'm going to sit down. I'm going to start writing. And I find it to be very interesting. I very rarely have ever talked to anybody that says, yeah, one was good for me, one and done, and I'm over it. It's almost like maybe 1%. So that's why I'm like, oh, there has to be another one.
Yeah, there will be for sure, and also some other things that people can gain access to as well. We have some programs coming out in 2019 that people can participate in around Fur Covered Wisdom.
Now, here's a question I ask a lot of people in your position, and it's something that I've found to be very interesting, and that is, have you had any desire of going on Shark Tank?
Everybody asks us that. We never really thought of it really seriously. I mean, we've said, should we do that? And then we go, nah, we're not going to do that. We haven't, but I never say never. We just haven't actively pursued that.
It's funny because I've had a couple people who have been on, and they've all said the same thing. It's difficult, but the difference between you and a lot of other businesses, you have a brand, you've licensed it out, and you have sales. I honestly, and pets, anything pet supply, pet accessory, anything to do with our pets, when it comes to Shark Tank, seems to be one of the number one episodes that they do. And it becomes almost this blockbuster. Even though you're already well established, it's always that, hey, you know what? There's always room to be bigger, and always that question of how do we grow? And that's everybody's question in life. Even Nike and Reebok is still looking to find out how do we grow the brand. So that's why I'm always like, well, have you thought about doing it? Because I think you'd be massively supported, and who knows?
Right.
Just
well,
thought.
Thank you. We'll see.
I mean, it's like writing a book. It was like probably everything else of, hey, take it from somebody who's talked to people involved in this. I mean, if you don't, it's totally cool. It's just if you had that, should I not? I've just found that it's one of those, you've checked off all the boxes, and that alone is like, wow, you hardly ever see that. So what have we not covered that we should have covered?
I think we actually covered pretty much it. I would like to just close by saying, first off, thank you so much, Chris, for having me on, and invite your listeners to come to the website at dogisgood.com and peruse it for themselves for fun, but definitely invite them to sign up for the newsletter so that they can gain access to some of the specials and things that will be happening over the next couple months with holiday, and to join the private Facebook group, which is called Dog is Good Lifestyle Group. They can, that's a really fun community, and so I would encourage them to do that. And sign up for their Fur Covered Wisdom, also on the website. They can just go to furcoveredwisdom.com to do that. And lastly, put it out there to let them know if there's anybody listening that's interested in starting their very own business, like a pop-up shop of sorts, and want to be in business for themselves but not by themselves, I invite you to reach out to me personally. Happy to share with you what that entails and how we can support you in that, and how we're growing just a great community around the country with that opportunity as well. So thank you. I'm so grateful for the chance to talk with you, Chris, and for the time that you gave me on your podcast.
I completely appreciate it. I mean, I think everything that you're doing and everything you're going to do is just, it's astonishing and absolutely an honor for me to be able to sit down and have this conversation with you.
Well, thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Well, this is Gila Kurtz from Dog is Good, and I'm Chris Green. Have a pet-tastic week. Bye-bye, everybody.
Okay, gotta go in my bedtime.